Our first question comes from Greg Allman.
Hey, Bruce, we had talked to Carlton Davis yesterday, and you talked a bit after the game about the job he did up against Michael Thomas on Sunday. I just want to ask you where you think he's made the biggest strides and the most progress from when you first had him, started last year to where he is now, and where it's given you the most confidence too.
Yeah, his understanding of the game, what he's trying to get done. His technique has improved tremendously. He did have the one penalty, the pass interference, but I think he had him covered too good. Just don't hook him. But he's a big physical guy. He's learned how to play in front of people, and he's doing a heck of a job with it.
Thanks, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next is going to be Rick Stroud.
All right, I'll keep that theme. How much of a luxury is it to have a corner that can travel with the top receiver like that if you need them to? Yeah, it's a huge luxury. I mean, there's so many things you can do defensively when you have guys like that. And, I think Carlton's at that spot. I think Jamel and Sean are going to be there next year or pretty close. So maybe by the end of this year, you never know. But they all have that length and speed. Carlton has just learned his techniques really, really well. Is that common? I mean, when he was a clutch and grab guy early on, that the confidence, once you get that confidence, you stop, your technique gets better, or is that, or do you just have to work on hand placement and things like that? You just have to learn your techniques and hand placement. He didn't play a lot of bump and run, and when he did, it was far, and they played so much zone. Yeah. So it's just a matter of getting confidence in it and trusting that speed and that length. Thanks.
Okay, next is going to be Scott Reynolds.
Hey, Bruce, just wanted to ask you about Devin White and with him being named a captain this year and being the quarterback of your defense as your inside linebacker. How close or far away from being able to play that chess game with quarterbacks is he? He hasn't played a full 16 games yet, but it seems like he's getting closer every game.
Yeah, I mean, he's running the show. He's got Levante next to him, so it's easy to look over and say, "What do you think?" But so they work really, really well together on getting the checks and everything that we want to do, and getting us in the right fronts and making sure the back end's connected. But yeah, he's well on his way of taking over.
And then with the Panthers, they present a little bit of a unique challenge, I guess, in terms of preparation with no preseason games and only one game to evaluate. Do you have to look at Baylor footage or LSU footage to see what the coordinators are going to do? How do you attack your film prep this week without much film to watch?
Yeah, we studied a bunch of Baylor film, Temple film on their defense, and then we have the Raider game offensively, a lot of LSU stuff, and the one game. So yeah, most of that preparation was done once the schedule came out. Mm-hmm. He could start working on all that college stuff, and a lot of it showed up in this ball game against the Raiders.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next is going to be Jenna Lane.
Coach, nobody gets excited about coming into the building after a loss. What did you see from your guys when they returned to the building this week? And particularly, what did you see from your quarterback?
Oh, just ready to roll. I mean, 24-hour rule is now extended because we don't meet till Tuesday morning. But it was film, and it's on to the next one. It's this professional football. You don't mope around, or you're gonna miss a Wednesday. We had a pretty good practice today, so if you're moping around, you're gonna have a really bad Wednesday.
And regarding your post-game comments about Tom Brady, I know that some folks, Brett Favre took issue with it, said you threw your quarterback under the bus and things like that. But I know it's important for you to have a really open and honest relationship with your quarterback and with your players. And I also know that it's important for you to have that with us too. So can you just describe, because again, there seems to be these unwritten rules that you can't speak ill of a quarterback or, but it seems like Tom Brady is a guy that can handle tough coaching too.
Yeah, Tom and I are fine. So I don't really care what other people think. So it's just what he and I think. And, we left the stadium fine. We showed up today fine. So there ain't nothing to talk about.
Thank you, Coach.
You bet.
All right, next is Ira Kaufman.
Bruce, you've seen a few things over the years in this game, but I assume you're kind of astonished how some people in the media have already turned on Brady He's done and as an effective quarterback. And are you kind of amused at all this?
Yeah, I mean, I was amused when they handed us the Barty Trophy in July. Yeah, I mean, it's part of the business. You know, you go with it, and it's 1 week at a time, 1 day at a time, and you know, we win a few games in a row, everybody be back on the bandwagon, happy. So it's part of the game. Wait till
Bruce,
if we lose
after
this week,
watching the film,
world will come to an end.
Bruce, after watching the film and a couple of days later, are you a little more encouraged about how the team played than you were immediately after the game?
Yeah, I think you always are. You're very disappointed, and then you look at it and you take all the good things that happened and the things that were bad. Could you be correctable? And they were very correctable. So yeah, and we're on to Carolina now.
All right, next is going to be Ed Encina.
And Bruce, I know you mentioned after the game about just how quiet it was in the dome, I think your words were like, something needs to change there. I mean, what would you change? Would you change like the limits of how loud it can be, or anything else that was going on there that would help the atmosphere?
Yeah, I'd like to just hear somebody hollering, not a steady hum. But like I said, we're used to crowd noise. I mean, I'm used to going to that stadium and having a ton of energy, and it was just so different. I think it's different for all of us, players, coaches, everybody. So, we'll see. I mean, for us going into Ray J, it was louder at our scrimmages than I'm sure it's going to be loud. Then it's going to be allowed to be. So it's just something we got to get used to until we get our fans back.
Thank you.
Okay, next we're going to have Justin Granite.
Hey, Coach, Tom made no secrets about it, how impressed he was with Scotty Miller during camp and then leading up to that game. After watching that tape, what is it about those two that had that instant connection specifically during game time? Yeah,
they worked very, very hard all summer and had a great camp together, and it showed up in a ball game. That's usually what happens. It happens in practice every day, and so and when they like all three of our weapons and our tight ends, so Tom distributes the ball to the guys, and it's not like, hey, we're throwing this one to Scotty. Just that's the way it is. But he has a lot of trust in, I think, all those guys.
All right, next up is going to be Kevin O'Donnell.
Hey, Bruce. Chris Godwin said yesterday that some of the problems were miscommunication between, Tom and the receivers. What causes that miscommunication? Is it because there's a lot of option routes, and does that take time to develop? Yeah, option routes do take time to develop, whether you're reading coverage on the run, the quarterback and the receiver together. Those things take time, but there was a few of those in the ball game, but not many. Have you found quarterbacks in your first year in your system take a little bit of time to get adjusted to that? Yes and no. Yes and no. Sometimes it's more receivers getting used to it, running fast through an area.
All right, next is going to be Steve Isbitz.
Coach, following the Saints game, you said Will Golston had one of his best games ever. Can you talk more about what you saw from him? Yeah, I mean, he was up and down line scrimmage, tackles for loss. He was penetrating, played well against the run, had a couple of good pushes. Big play down in the red zone for tackle for loss. So, yeah, he played. And he had a great camp. He stood out in camp. And as a team with a new coach and a new quarterback, can you comment on what Carolina was able to pull off and show against the Raiders? They even had no turnovers. Yeah, I mean, the coach and the quarterback have history in the same offense, so it's not like they're starting from scratch. So that's an easy one. And Teddy's a very, very bright guy and has very few turnovers in his history. So that part of it didn't surprise me at all. McCaffrey never surprises me because if he gets a crack, he's going. So, and it all starts with him. I thought they did a good job of feeding him, and Teddy played really well for him.
All right, time for a couple more. Next, we're going to go to Tom Krasnicki.
Hi, Bruce. I want to ask you about Tom Brady's quarterback sneak on the first drive. Was that something he audibled into, that he saw the look that he wanted, and does he have the freedom to do that?
Well, I'd hate to give away game plans, but yeah, he did.
And I guess my follow-up is Mike Evans with his hamstring. How's he feeling today?
He feeling good. He ran really well, and had a good practice.
All right, our final two are going to come from Greg Allman and then Rick Stroud.
First, I just want to ask you about Matt Rule. I don't know if there's a secret fraternity of former Temple coaches that you guys have. Just how much you dealt with him when he was at Temple and what you like about him now.
Yeah, Matty came out to Arizona and visited with us some and looked at some of our defensive stuff. And, Phil Snow, I think, is one of the best defensive coaches, college or pro. So Matt's done a great job wherever he's been. High energy guy, really bright. And, I got a ton of respect for him. And the job he did at Baylor and Temple were outstanding.
Thanks, Bruce.
All right, last one's from Rick Stroud.
Bruce, you mentioned the other day you would have liked to see a little better blocking from your tight ends on the edge. But overall, how did you think Gronk played for a guy that was out of football for a year? Did he look slow? Was he thinking? What would you make of his first game?
I thought he played fine. There were some times when, he was matched up on Cam Jordan and some other guys. That's no easy chore for any tight end, even especially if it's your first game back. And, we've like to see a little more push, but a stalemate against him, I'll take that every time. And but overall, I thought he played. Got his feet wet back in the league, and was fine. Not done glaring, that's for sure.
Is there any update on who didn't practice today, Chris Godwin or JPP?
Chris Godwin is in the concussion protocol. He did not show any symptoms Monday or Tuesday, and then showed up today with some. So we're going to be very, very cautious with that.
Gotcha.
Everybody else practiced.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, that's all for today. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.